It's already been over a month since the US and Israel started striking Iran, and there's still no sign of it slowing down. Missiles, drones, airstrikes, back and forth across the region. And now you can see the impact all over the world. Oil prices go up, shipping gets expensive, supply chains get tighter, and eventually, it shows up in everyday things like food and groceries. So at first, it just feels like it's all downside. But wars usually don't work like that. Because if you zoom out for a second, there's always someone getting something out of it. Maybe you don't see it right away, but it's there. So the real question is, who's actually winning here? And what are they getting out of it? So let's start with the main player, Israel. Ever since 1948, when Israel became a country, it's basically been in a survival mode, as its neighbors never really accepted it. To them, it's humiliating, seeing someone just come in and set up on their land. So yeah, when you're backed into a corner, you do whatever it takes. And that's pretty much the same reason behind the conflict with Iran. Their biggest concern has always been simple. What if Iran gets a nuclear weapon? And for years, Israeli leaders have been saying the same thing. They're not going to let that happen, no matter what it takes. So from that angle, this actually looks like it's playing in Israel's favor. Iran's nuclear sites have taken some serious hit. Khamenei is dead, and that whole network they built to surround Israel, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, it's been getting crushed over the years. And on top of that, Israel now has full backing from the United States, not just politically, but militarily too. And when that kind of power comes into play, things can escalate very quickly. But yeah, it didn't really go the way they expected. Because Iran didn't just collapse or back off. Instead, they kept going. They just keep firing back missiles and drones at the same pace. And now Israel has a real problem. Their defenses can't hold up forever. Systems like Iron Dome and Arrow are incredible, but every time they take one out, that's another expensive shot used up. And Iran knows that. Their whole strategy is basically to just keep firing and slowly drain those defenses. So yeah, the longer this war goes on, the more Israel's wallet is taking a hit. But even if Israel wraps this up fast, with help from the US and all that military power, that doesn't mean their problems just fade away overnight. Because during the airstrikes in Iran, there were reports of Israeli bombs hitting a school and even some hospitals. And that instantly sparked global outrage. Images started spreading everywhere, and it shook everyone across the world. So even if Israel wins militarily, it's going to face massive international pressure. It's possible that even winning this war could end up worse than losing, with sanctions, blacklisting, or completely shut down the exports. So is Israel winning? Sort of, but winning is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Now here comes the US. So what does America actually get out of this? The official story is simple. Iran getting close to a nuclear weapon, funding militant groups, destabilizing the region. So hitting Iran and weakening it, that's a win for global security. But like I said, no one goes to war without something to gain. And it's very obvious thing for America, oil. The US has a long track record in the Middle East, especially when oil's involved, whether it's Iraq, Syria, or Saudi Arabia. Through alliances with Israel, the US keeps a close eye on the region, makes sure the oil nations don't get too independent, and keeps the petrodollar system working in its favor. So if Israel set risk, they're stepping in. This pushes the US to send in more troops, pour more money into the war, and get more deeply involved in trying to control the situation. For the top officials, this is a must-do. But the regular people? Yeah, they're not really on board. And back in the US, things are getting tense. People are out protesting. It's all over the news, and everyone's going back and forth on it. So yeah, in some ways, it works in their favor. But they're paying for it too. In money, in risk, and in political pressure. So is it a smart move or a gamble? That depends on how this ends. Now on the other side, you've got Iran. And if you look at it from a military angle, they're the ones getting hit the hardest right now. Their leadership's taken a hit, some key sites have been damaged, and their economy was already struggling, now it's even worse. On paper, this looks like a country that should be falling apart, but it's not. And that's where things get complicated, because the whole idea behind these strikes was simple: hit hard at the top, and everything else starts to collapse. Maybe internal pressure builds, maybe people turn against the leadership, and the system starts breaking from the inside. But that hasn't happened. The leadership was replaced pretty quickly, the system didn't fall apart, and the military just kept going. If anything, they pushed back even harder. And when it comes to the people, this is where it gets interesting. When a country is attacked from the outside, people don't always turn against their government. A lot of times they come together instead, even if they had issues before. So instead of the system breaking, it can actually make it more stable, at least for now. But Iran's real advantage here isn't just military, it's where it sits on the map, the Strait of Hormuz. It's just a narrow stretch of water, but a huge portion of the world's oil moves through it. And Iran has influence over it, which means even while taking hits, they still have leverage. Because if that route gets disrupted, it's not just one country that feels it, it hits the entire world. From an economic point of view, Saudi Arabia is actually in a pretty similar spot to Iran, because Iran didn't just fight back, it hit Saudi Arabia where it hurts the most: its economy. Oil facilities, refineries, the core of their entire system, targeted. And that's the risk that comes with being closely tied to the US in a conflict like this. Then there's the Strait of Hormuz. Once that gets disrupted, exports slow down, imports get hit. And for a region that relies heavily on incoming goods, that's a serious problem. Saudi Arabia tried rerouting through pipelines to the Red Sea, but it's not enough to fully replace that flow. Now, from Saudi Arabia's point of view, it makes sense. Iran is the rival. It's been backing groups like the Houthis for years, challenging Saudi influence in the region. So weakening Iran? That sounds like a win. But the reality is, they're taking hits too. And it's not just Saudi Arabia. Pretty much every country in this region is feeling the fallout in one way or another. Which kinda leads to a bigger question. If everyone here is taking damage, then who's actually coming out ahead? Someone like Russia. Think about it. Every advanced US defense system sent to the Middle East, every missile, every air defense unit deployed here. That's support not going to Ukraine, which means Russia gets a little more breathing room. And then there's oil. Russia is one of the world's biggest exporters, so when prices go up, Russia makes more money. Simple as that. And with oil climbing past key levels, that's billions flowing straight into its economy. But here's where it gets interesting. Wasn't Russia supposed to be on Iran's side? They signed a long-term partnership. They've been supplying drones. But in reality, Russia's playing this very calculated game. Publicly, it criticizes the attacks, but behind the scenes, it's letting things play out. Because the longer this conflict drags on, the more it stretches US resources, and the higher oil prices stay. Now what about Ukraine? Although it's obvious, if Iran's on Russia's side, that puts them on the other side of this conflict. And for years, Iran has been supplying drones and weapons to Russia, the same ones being used on the battlefield. So every time those facilities get hit, that's one less pipeline feeding Russia's war machine. And Ukraine didn't just sit back either. They made a bold move, offering drone defense systems and military support to Gulf countries in exchange for the Patriot missiles they desperately need. Which means, in a very narrow military sense, this situation can actually work in Ukraine's favor. Now, China. This one's a bit more complicated, because in the short term, China actually takes a hit. About 13% of its oil come from Iran, and half its total oil imports came through the Strait of Hormuz. So, when that route gets disrupted, China feels it. Higher cost, supply pressure, uncertainty. But that's just for now. In the long run, this could look very different. Because if Middle East oil becomes unreliable, China doesn't just sit and wait, it adapts. And the most obvious alternative? Russia. That means more pipelines, more long-term energy deals, and in the end, stronger China-Russia ties. Basically, you've got a new duo teaming up to take a shot at US dominance. China is very smart. While others are fighting, China is positioning itself as the calm voice in the room, calling for ceasefire, talking about stability, criticizing the escalation. And that plays extremely well in the global south, where a lot of countries are uncomfortable with a US attack. So while the US is taking a hit to its global image, China's quietly building trust around the world. And that's just how they play it. No matter what's going on, they find a way to make it work for them. During the Red Sea crisis, they cut a deal with the Houthis, making sure their own ships stayed safe while everyone else was dealing with the chaos. And now, India. And this one is all about balance, because India has managed something very few countries can pull off, staying close to everyone without fully picking a side. It has energy ties with Iran, defense partnerships with Israel, strong trade connections across the Gulf, and at the same time, it maintains a working relationship with the United States. And you can actually see that balance working. Even in the middle of all this chaos, India is still able to keep key routes and supplies open, partly because of those relationships. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Just don't let things back home get messed up. Keep the energy flowing, keep trade moving, and don't get dragged into something bigger. At the top, it's all strategy and gain, but on the ground, it's regular people paying the price, and that never really changes.